time, and I'm sure he's made some mistakes like everybody else has, but I don't believe for a minute that he's ever bet on baseball.
I don't know that much about betting because I'm so young, but I think that if he did do it, then he should be punished.
We hope that he is innocent, but, you know, time will tell. I just want him to have a fair trial and have his say in court.
The ongoing Pete Rose gambling investigation is the major topic of conversation here in Cincinnati. Today at Riverfront Stadium, they expect a crowd of 32,000 for the Reds and the Mets, with the slumping Reds going up against Dwight Gooden. And once again, this week on the pregame, we focus our attention on Pete Rose and his alleged gambling involvement. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Marv Albert, and we welcome you to the start of our baseball day here on NBC. Most of you will see the Reds going up against the Mets here in Cincinnati, while some of you will be watching the Dodgers and the Pirates at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. Now, here in Cincinnati, there is suddenly concern about the play of the Reds, who have dropped 3 in a row and 13 out of their last 19. Last night, it was Darryl Strawberry making a return to the Met lineup after missing 8 games with a broken toe. He whacked this 3-run home run. Pitcher Ron Darling hit one out with 2 on, as did Howard Johnson, as the Mets clobber the Reds 11-1. And Pete Rose has to be wondering, has the mounting strain begun to affect his ball club? Now, Cincinnati owner Marge Schott may or may not have been affected by the continuing pressure, but the Reds would not disclose why she was admitted to a local hospital yesterday. They would only say that she underwent a series of tests. However, team officials today said she is fine, and earlier this morning she was released from the hospital. When we come back to Riverfront in Cincinnati, I'll be talking with a one-time bookmaker by the name of Ron Peters, who has emerged as the key witness of baseball in the case against Pete Rose. At Cincinnati's Riverfront Stadium, Ron Peters is a 32-year-old former bookie who has surfaced as a key figure in the Pete Rose investigation. Peters allegedly handled most of Rose's bets over a 3-year period. Attorneys for Rose feel that Peters is not a credible witness because he is a convicted felon, and his cooperation is an attempt to plea bargain his sentence. I talked with Peters earlier today in his hometown in nearby Franklin, Ohio.
At first, what did he bet on right at the start?
NFL.
How did he do on that?
He didn't do very well. He lost.
How about other sports?
He lost in all sports except for baseball. That was my theory why he bet on baseball. He lost so much money. On the other sports, he had to recoup it somehow. And he figured he had the edge on baseball and started betting baseball and did rather well at it.
David Morgan, who worked as your assistant, was quoted in Sports Illustrated this past week as saying it wasn't anything for Pete Rose to lose $25,000 to $40,000 a week. Is that an accurate assessment?
Oh, yeah.
Didn't you wonder at any point, could he survive those kinds of losses?
Sure, that's why we always tried to settle up before he got that far down. We usually try to settle up between 10 and 15,000.
Even though you were a bookie, were you surprised that Pete Rose would bet on baseball?
Absolutely.
What was your first reaction when you heard about it?
Well, I was, when he first started betting, it was surprising for a man to be betting on his own sport, and especially his own team, knowing what he had to lose. I don't think Pete ever fixed games. He was just, he just liked to gamble, and he bet on his own team all the time.
Now, as a bookmaker, you generally don't keep evidence of betting records or what would be called betting slips. You decided to keep them with Pete Rose. Why was that?
Well, the reason I kept them with Pete is because Paul Jansen and I would never just be sitting in one place to answer phones. He might be at Gold's Gym. He might be at his house. I might be out on the lake somewhere. I might be at Jonathan's Cafe. So consequently, we had a hard time checking figures, balancing out. So we kept all the stuff, all the work. And so when it came time to check figures, if there was a discrepancy, we could go back over it.
Last week in Judge Nadle's courtroom, the key piece of evidence cited in granting the restraining order was the letter that Bart Giamatti sent to a judge vouching for your honesty and cooperation in the baseball investigation. A lot of people felt that was a strategic blunder by Major League Baseball, but it may have saved you some additional time in prison. So you must have viewed the letter quite favorably. Did your attorney request that baseball write that letter, or did baseball do it themselves?
No, we asked for it. We asked for it as a result of my honest and truthful cooperation. If, in fact, they thought that was true, we asked that they would send a letter to the judge just stating that fact, that I was truthful and honest. Nothing about leniency. And yes, I do think it worked.
You've given your evidence to the commissioner's investigators, so that's done now. Do you care one way or the other whether Pete Rose is banned from baseball?
I did in the beginning, but the way he's attacked everybody's character, I hate to see anything happen to him still today, but it wouldn't bother me if he got banned from baseball. In the beginning, it would have bothered me, but not now.
In dealing with those who wager, is Pete Rose a compulsive gambler?
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Did it ever bother you dealing with a compulsive gambler?
No, that's the business I was in. I liked compulsive gamblers.
If you met up with Pete Rose later today, what do you think would happen? What would the conversation be like?
I don't think there would be a conversation. He might even try to attack me. I don't know. I don't know what would happen.
Is there anything you would want to say to him?
No, not really. I hope he gets into the Hall of Fame. I don't think that should have any bearing on it. What he did was history, and he should be awarded for it. That's all.
One-time bookmaker Ron Peters with strong statements on the subject of the alleged gambling involvement of Pete Rose. In a moment, we'll hear from Rose, and I'll talk with Reds relief star John Franco regarding a report that Franco passed on pro football scores to Rose during Cincinnati Reds games. Cincinnati, where shortly Pete Rose and his Reds will go up against the New York Mets. In yesterday's edition of the New York Daily News, baseball writer Bill Madden reported that Cincinnati Reds relief pitcher John Franco, as Madden put it, the first player to be directly linked to Rose's gambling activities, admitted running pro football scores to Rose during the course of Reds games. I talked about this with Franco, who was very upset about the charges, and I asked, where did this all stem from?
I have no idea. I mean, maybe I was misquoted a couple months ago. Who knows? But it's to me, it's ridiculous, like I said before, and I just got to laugh about it.
Was there ever a case where you may have passed the score on, just from a fan point of view?
Oh, still, all the guys, you know, a lot of times guys are interested on how their team, you know, from L.A. or whatever it is, and you're up in the locker room, what's the score here? A lot of times they flash it on the scoreboard with the score of game. So, I mean, damn, why me?
Has Pete talked to you about this at all since the disclosure came out?
We laughed about it because it's not true. I mean, there's nothing to talk about. I mean, he knows him, and I know me, and I know it's not true. And whoever wrote it, I don't know what to tell him.
Does Pete Rose bet on sports?
I don't know. That's not my concern. I'm worried about right now what we're spreading about John Franco, and whatever Pete Rose has done, that's Pete Rose's business, not mine.
As for Rose's reaction, he had this to say to Bob Trumpy last night on his weekly show on WLW Radio here in Cincinnati, and our cameras were there.
The story said that he was bringing scores of games on a Sunday, a football NFL Sunday, to the bench. I think that's what it said.
All right,
but they use the headline as Pete's runner.
Yeah.
And I think it's a shame that some people will stoop that low to implicate the players in this investigation. And I think the whole thing of John Franco being a runner is so ridiculous. I don't even think we should waste time talking about it.
Has that been a concern of yours, though, that this is going to bleed over into your players?
I've worked at trying to keep the media away from the press, and I think what you're seeing now, Bob, is the Dowd report has been out 4 or 5 days now, and they've highlighted it to the fullest, I might add, the last 3 or 4 days, and they've run out of highlights. We knew that it was going to be a storm that we'd have to put up with, and because we knew what was in the report originally. But now that the big highlights are gone, you know, the cocaine. I'm a cocaine man, and I'm in the mafia, and I store cocaine in my house, and I'm going to break bookies' kids' legs. All that stuff is out. Now they have to start implicating players to keep the ball rolling, so to speak.
I don't want to continue on this, but it hurts John Franco. I just talked to him in the clubhouse.
It should. I mean, it's a low blow. It's a very similar situation to what they put on Eric Davis last year about the drugs.
Yes.
It's amazing to me what the press can get away with no witnesses, with no substantial evidence. I mean, it's just amazing what they can insinuate and how they can put their headlines. And I know the guys who write the stories don't make the headlines, but those guys who make the headlines are pretty tricky. They have a knack of getting you to read the story, and I think when the people read the story about John Franco, they say, what the hell is this?
And the heat will continue this week with Thursday's scheduled local court hearing on Rose's attempt to block an appearance before the baseball commissioner, Bart Giamatti. So the legal maneuverings continue as Pete Rose and his Reds enter the month of July with more than baseball on their minds. That is it for this edition of the pregame. Most of you will see the Reds and Mets from here in Cincinnati with Vince Scully and Tom Seaver. Some of you will be watching the Dodgers and the Pirates from L.A. with Bob Costas and Tony Kubek. The Pirates are hot. They've won 6 in a row. I'm Marv Albert. Stay tuned for the Game of the Week.
Terry delivers. Bill Mazeroski connects. It's still the only World Series to end on a sudden death home run, as Maz is the toast of Pittsburgh. In 1971, Roberto Clemente led them to another title. Then 8 years later in Baltimore, Willie Stargell helps the Pirates complete a comeback from a 3-1 deficit against the Orioles. This 2-run shot in Game 7 wraps up another world title for the Bucks. 1955, and next year finally arrives for the Bums of Brooklyn. Johnny Padres retires Elston Howard on this ground ball to Pee Wee Reese. The hated Yankees are finally beaten, and the first and only championship flag flies at Ebbets Field. On to Los Angeles, where more championships followed. The most improbable last year, when Kirk Gibson's pinch homer off Dennis Eckersley electrified a nation. 2 ball clubs with mountains of history, but big hills to climb in the present pennant race. Meet today on the NBC Game of the Week.
The National Broadcasting Company, now in its 7th decade of bringing you baseball's memories. Baseball's milestone. Baseball's magical moments. And baseball's miracles. NBC Sports proudly presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week.
You couldn't ask for a better baseball day than this one at Dodger Stadium, but Tommy Lasorda could certainly ask for better times than these in the pennant race. His club has dropped 5 straight, and they've fallen 9.5 back of the pace set by San Francisco in the National League West. Hi, everybody. Bob Costas along with Tony Kubek. Trying to break this 5-game skid, Lasorda will send Tim Leary to the mound today. Last year's comeback player of the year in the National League, when he won 17, has a record of 6-5 so far this season. On the other hand, the Pirates have a season-best 6-game winning streak, but they still trail Montreal by 8.5 in the East. Their starter today, left-hander John Smiley, fine record of 7-2. Let's go down to the field. Here's Tony.
All right, thank you, Bob. Tommy, these times are never easy, and people continue to blame your offense. Maybe it's more to it, but you did make a roster change today.
Yes, Mariano Duncan had to go on a disabled list, and we're putting Mike Marshall back on the active list. So Mike is available. He's going to play today, which we've missed his bat for the past, I must say, 6 weeks. But in life, just as in baseball, Tony, as Reverend Shore says, tough times never last, but tough people do. We're going through a tough situation right now. We're sputtering. Our offense has not been playing up to their capabilities, but we believe that we're going to turn things around. We believe that today is going to be the first day of a good winning streak. We need a good winning streak. San Francisco's had a good winning streak. The Giants have had a good one. I mean, the Cincinnati Reds.
No, wait, I love your pep talk here, but how do you get your guys to with men on base?
Well, that's the difference. We're one base hit away from winning the ball games rather than losing. Now, today, we're going to come up with the bases loaded and 2 out, and the guy's going to get a base hit.
I knew it. I knew you'd have a reason what's going to happen and everything else. Well, you got a good pitcher going again today against a good pitcher, John Smiley. Thank you so much, Tommy. Good luck. If you guys can stay healthy, I guess you'll get back in it.
We'll be all right.
We'll be back to Dodger Stadium right after this.
The game of the week is
Dodger bench. Mike Davis there with the bat, trying to snap a 5-game losing streak behind Tim Leary. Barry Bonds will start it for the Pirates in left field. He'll be followed by the second baseman Jose Lean, who uncharacteristically had 2 errors last night. Andy Van Slyke swinging a good bat again for average, but the power stroke hasn't come back. He's in center field. Bobby Bonilla, big bat, shaky gloves, 17 errors already at third base, cleanup man. R.J. Reynolds, the former Dodger, will be in right field. Gary Reedus filling in for the injured Sid Bream. Had his second knee operation, Bream did, earlier this year. He's gone for the season. Ray Quinones splitting time at shortstop with Rafael Belliard. Belliard played last night here. Dan Billardello, up from Buffalo, the former Cincinnati Reds catcher, may return to AAA when Mike LaValliere comes back. LaValliere's at Buffalo now on a rehab assignment. And John Smiley at 7-2 is the pitcher.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please.
As everyone knows by now, pitching has not been a problem for this Dodger team. They are leading baseball in their team ERA, and they've got more to come with Ramon Martinez's Albuquerque, John Tudor back now, and a revitalized Fernando Valenzuela. Defensively, they've played decent baseball too, Bob, except with some of the injuries and some aids, the defense is not quite as mobile, perhaps, as Tommy Lasorda would like. Gibson, Gonzalez replacing Shelby today, who was struggling with the bat. Marshall, his first start in a long time off the DL in right field. Hamilton, Griffin playing well offensively and defensively. Randolph playing with a little twinge in the hamstring. Murray at first. Dempsey catching today after a night game where Scioscia caught. Tim Leary, Bob.
He's 30 years old. 6'3", 190, 17-11 for the world champs last year. 6-5 this season, ERA 3.12. Involved in trade rumors, which had him going to Cincinnati in return for Cal Daniels. His last start was at Cincinnati. He coughed up an early 3-0 lead. Paul O'Neill got him for a home run in the 6th. He wasn't involved in the decision.
Not as overpowering to this point this year's last, and some people think that perhaps that pitch of the 80s, the split-fingered fastball, has taken something away from his fastball.
Barry Bonds steps in. Watch for the early lightning. He's got 17 game-opening homers in his career as he takes strike 1. Of course, his dad hit 11 of those in one season and 35 game openers for his career, which until this year was the record. Ricky Henderson went past it. Thinking about dragging a bunt, but comes up empty, 0-2.
A great combination of speed, as you know, with Bobby Bonds, outstanding left fielder, power, although he's hitting just over 240, excellent on-base percentage. He'll take a walk.
Leary's 0-2 pitch. Off the outside corner. Tim being caught by 39-year-old Rick Dempsey today.
Leary basically a 2-pitch pitcher, and Rick Dempsey knows it. Fastball and the forkball.
2 balls and 2 strikes to Barry Bonds.
Wasn't yesterday's game something? 4-3 Pittsburgh. It looked like Pittsburgh was all but trying to hand the game to the Dodgers with 4 errors. The Dodgers just wouldn't take it.
Fastball fouled off. As you may have read, Barry and Bobby have a combined father-son total of 407 major league home runs. And for the moment, there's a 3-way tie in that strange category. We'll show it to you as the game moves along. Got him. Called strike 3. Buddy Bell announcing his retirement in the middle of this season. So eventually, next time Barry connects, they'll snap what you could call a four-way tie. Duke Snider all by himself had that same total. Jose Lean to the plate, hitting .239. No second baseman has any more range than this guy, but he booted a couple last night.
He's a tremendously acrobatic middle infielder like Ozzie Smith with the Cardinals. Lean started the season with the problem on the DL. Elbow chips removed. But this Pittsburgh Pirate ball club is starting to get healthy now. Lean, Van Slyke is starting to swing the bat better. They're starting to get their bullpen adjusted. Big blow losing Jimmy Gott, maybe gone for the season.
3-0 to Lean.
I would not take Pittsburgh for granted if I were the Eastern Division. When they keep talking about the Cubs and Montreal and the Mets and the Cardinals are close. Pittsburgh just 6 games back from the loss column with a long way to go.
But still 8 under 500, despite Jim Leland's present 6-game winning streak. But the most important thing is that at least for the month of June, he found the stopper in Bill Landrum. The 3-1 pitch is spanked into center field, but Gonzalez is going to get there.
Not the easiest place in center field or the outfield to get a jump on the ball in day baseball in Dodger Stadium with all these white shirts behind home plate. Gonzalez playing with a little rib strain, injured a couple of days ago. He took some extra hitting practice today under the stand, said he could go, and Tommy Lasorda puts him out there. An incredible number of people on the disabled list throughout the major leagues.
Andy Van Slyke hitting .350 over his last 19 games, but still with only 2 home runs. Last year he hit 25 and drove in 100. The 1-0 pitch to him. Fastball hit hard, but Murray's got it. Leary covers, and Tim sets him down in order in the top half of the first. On a picture-perfect day at Dodger Stadium, the home team has its first chance when we come back. John Smiley faces switch-hitting shortstop Alfredo Griffin, followed by Willie Randolph with a tender hamstring. We'll come back to it. Kirk Gibson hitting third. Griffin cuts on the first one, pops it back, and it makes the seats. Gibson in the third slot. He's followed by Eddie Murray, who's hitting just .237. You got Gibson at .238, Murray at .237. Marshall just off the DL today with the chronic back problem, and he's at .242. So there's the essence of their problem. Hamilton is at third. Gonzalez will be in center field. Rick Dempsey catching. Tim Leary. Smiley's 0-1 pitch. In for a strike. This is only the 19th time all season that what they projected to be the heart of their order, Gibson, Murray, and Marshall, have been in the lineup at the same time.
When you go into the clubhouse or you see the Dodgers on the field, you really tell how much they miss Steve Sachs. A very aggressive offensive player, but just that little spice he added in the clubhouse. He's a very unique individual. He's adding some of that spice for the Yankees right now.
Yeah, he's doing a good job for Dallas Green. In fairness, though, Willie Randolph's hitting .297. Here's the 0-2 pitch, and he lays off. And the Dodgers lead the National League in double plays. Last year, they were 11th. And there's no question that Willie's a better defensive player than Steve.
And Willie is no longer a base stealer. He's a 2-hitter now who takes a lot of pitches to protect the 1-hitter.
Van Slyke lopes in, retires Griffin.
Pittsburgh can be erratic defensively, but they can also be sensational, led by the guy in center field, Andy Van Slyke, who every time we see Jimmy Leland, his manager, said he made another 2 great catches somewhere. Bonds, outstanding in left. R.J. Reynolds in right. Put Wilson out there, too, with that throw around. Quinones and Lynn up the middle. Sensational. Again, they can be erratic. Bonilla and Ritas at the corner with Sid Bream out perhaps for the year.
Off-speed pitch swung on and missed by Willie.
John Smiley will remind you a lot of Frank Viola of the Minnesota Twins. Viola at one time a strict power pitcher. Smiley can be a power pitcher and a finesse pitcher with that great change you just saw. He can throw 2-3 changes in a row.
The fastball is laced to center. Here comes Van Slyke to put it away. Andy pocketed a Gold Glove last year. Although I guess the Gold Glove trophy is too big to fit in even Captain Kangaroo's pocket. Just a figure of speech. But he nearly came in too strong on that one and almost sailed over his head.
Well, that high fastball when you're playing center field, sit off the bat as Randolph did, it'll have a tendency to get the underspin and take off on you. And that took off a little bit, but he made it look easy.
Kirk Gibson in the midst of a 5 for 47 swoon. Takes a strike. He almost broke out of it last night. A near home run. Mike Davis had hit one to finish Bob Walk in the 7th. Line drive caught by the backpedaling Quinones. And then when Bob Kipper came in, Gibson pinned R.J. Reynolds to the wall and right. They almost had back-to-back shots, but Reynolds hauled it in. No score after 1. Bobby Bonilla to started in the 2nd. His 2-run double in the 6th was the big hit last night. They beat Oral Hershiser, whose record falls to 9-7. Bob Walk with the win is 7-4. Here's the breaking ball low to Bonilla, who's hitting .281 with 9 home runs. Big switch hitting third baseman. Takes the fastball for a strike.
The Yankee general manager, Sid Thrift's boy. He saw him as a kid, signed him to a Pittsburgh contract. Bonilla got away to the White Sox. Sid Thrift came back. Sid Thrift got him back with Pittsburgh, and now rumors that Sid wants him with the Yankees.
Larry fields it and tosses Bonilla out on the comebacker. Before the game today, former First Lady Nancy Reagan took part in some pregame ceremonies. The Dodgers cooperating with her and her Just Say No program, and let's listen into a part of that.
The tide is turning in the way our young people are thinking about drugs and alcohol. But our work isn't done. We must continue to support them, nurture them, and encourage them to stay involved in this very important campaign.
R.J. Reynolds, the hitter, ball 1 low to him. Mrs. Reagan's spouse will be joining us on NBC on the night of the All-Star game. Swing and a miss.
Right up the road in Anaheim. Now I've got to ask you, will you call him Mr. President, or will you go back to his radio name when he was doing some radio broadcast and say, how you doing, Dutch?
Well, I'll leave that to Vin Scully, since he'll be in the booth with Vin and Tom Seaver in the first inning of the All-Star game. I will respectfully stand aside. A ball and 2 strikes. Red Sox with the lead at the Sky Dome in the 7th. And Cincinnati has the lead on the Mets. Doc Gooden pitching for New York. Mike Greenwell has a homer for the Red Sox in that game at Toronto. The Reds 1-0 lead, courtesy of a home run by Barry Larkin, who won't be the starting All-Star shortstop. Ozzie Smith will. But with all due respect to Ozzie, Larkin's the man now, glove and bat, all things considered.
Well, I would disagree. As great a player as Larkin is turning out to be, Ozzie's done it for so many years and is still a little bit better defensively and steals you the bases and is a catalyst in a lot of areas. And numbers don't always make the guy the best. In time, Larkin could be. Right now, I got to still stick with Ozzie.
This will be a 2-2 pitch. And he holds up.
There are not too many players on this Pirate team that will take a base on balls. Barry Bonds will, and then they are the old Pittsburgh Pirate Lumber Company. They like to go up there hacking.
Weak swing and another comebacker.
And you can see how Tim Leary can change speeds on his split finger fastball, and some of the pitchers who've mastered it they say it's a simple process. You split them a little bit off the fastball. It's the hard split-fingered fastball. The wider you spread the finger and get to the truer forkball grip, the more speed is taken off, the more dip. And he's had trouble maybe overthrowing the split-fingered fastball, getting it to go down. Not that last one.
So Leary has set down the first 5 Pirates. No score here, top half of the 2nd. Reedus swings and misses. Barry Larkin, for the sake of argument, is hitting .357. Ozzy's up around .290, and he's become a fine offensive player. And it is the fans' game, and Ozzy gets more votes than anybody in either league and has for several years now. So nobody needs to be upset with Ozzy's selection. But overall, you have to look at what Larkin's done. 0-2.
Reedus has become a very valuable man with Sid Bream out, as we told you, probably for the year when he has the reconstructive surgery. And Reedus did play some first base as a youngster. Now he's back there just about every day. Can steal your base. He's got some power. Sid Bream, Liberty University. Bobby Richardson, the baseball coach there now for Jerry Falwell.
A bouncing ball to the left side. Here's Hamilton. Guns it across to Murray. 6 straight, retired by Leary. On to the bottom half of the second at Dodger Stadium. You can barely see the bionic arm of Jim Gott. He's obscured by Bob Walk. That's Walk in between Bream and Gott, but he has an elaborate apparatus on that right arm with, there you go, the surgery having been performed on the elbow.
We saw firsthand how that affected his pitching staff. Remember in Chicago when he went out there on a Friday and they couldn't find the closer? They've tried about 3 different guys. Jeff Robinson, who's now a starter. Randy Kramer was back starting. And now, as you mentioned, Landrum is doing an outstanding job.
Last year, Gott came through in 34 of 40 save opportunities. Eddie Murray lining a left for a hit. First hit for either club. Murray had been batting just .194 from the right side and .237 overall.
You know, in defense of Eddie Murray, he doesn't need that. He's had a great career. He's taking a brunt of the criticism for not driving it around, but he has walked 50 times, 15 intentionally, and if he would take as many pitches as Jack Clark at San Diego, he'd probably have 75 walks now, but he's the kind of guy with men on base. Rather than take a walk, he'd rather go out of his strike zone and swing, and they found that out in this league. They pitched around him. Now that Marshall's back, it may change the picture.
Smiley's pitch. Grounded toward third. They might get 2. Bonilla leaned. And Marshall on his first swing since coming off the disabled list grounds into a 5-4-3 double play.
Mike Marshall took batting practice early today after night game. Only Mike Scioscia and Marshall hit. He took extra hitting yesterday, and when he went to Tommy Lasorda, said, my back's okay. I think I can play. He was a late insertion into the lineup. About a half hour before game time.
When he came off the DL, Mariano Duncan, nursing a sore hamstring, went on. They moved Chris Gwynn from the 15-day list to the 21-day disabled list, and Duncan will be sidelined for 15 days. Hamilton now with 2 out and nobody aboard. Got Villardello's meat hand on the foul tip.
You know, that's the one injury you don't see as much as. You see more rotator cuffs, the elbows, a lot more rib cage and knees and hamstrings, but the meat hand, rarely. You don't see all the disfigured fingers on the catchers. They've got the hinged or double hinged glove. Most of the catching's done one-handed, even with a man on base. They give the sign, and the hand goes right back of that right knee for protection.
And there it goes for Villardello. Breaking ball drops in there. Off-speed pitch from Smiley. He's ahead of Hamilton 0-2. Smiley was 13-11 last year. 7-2 this season. Beat Ted Power on the Cardinals in his last outing Sunday in Pittsburgh. So he's working on 5 days rest. And a tapper back to the mound. Smiley wheels and throws Hamilton out. Leary and Smiley have each sailed through the first 2 frames, and we'll sail away for a moment, but we're back after these messages from your local station. Compared with Rafael Belliard, the 217 average isn't much, but the 27 RBIs are okay as he split time with Raffy. They started Belliard last night because it was Leland's theory that if he was going to beat Oral Hershiser, it was likely to be a low-scoring game, and defense would be important. nice theory. They won despite 4 errors, none of them by Belliard, and they beat Hershiser 4-3.
But there was a play late in the game that Belliard turned into double play. A ball hit up the middle. He covered a lot of ground and almost made it look easy.
Hop back toward us.
Jimmy Leyland, some said last year that his team was a bunch of overachievers in the East. This year they came out of spring training with the injuries. He can be very volatile. He can be very compassionate. You don't know which side you're going to get. And his players are always on their toes. But he is a great strategist.
This one looks like it'll make the seats 2, and the count levels at 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Quinones out of the Red Sox chain. Got here by way of Seattle, where he didn't show up for spring training, in case you hadn't heard. Perhaps we'll be happier here with more of a Latin atmosphere on this ball club, where he'll feel more at home. He's got terrific tools, though.
In center field, Gonzalez backtracks only a few steps. And that's the first out here in the 3rd.
Yeah, talking to Stan Williams, the former Dodger pitcher with the Yankees, other teams. He's an advanced scout or scout and cross-checker out in this area. Sees a lot of games in San Diego, Anaheim here, and up the coast. And Stan was saying that you can almost count here in Dodger Stadium that you're going to go into the 5th inning with at least one team not scoring any runs, and many times none. And he said basically the Dodgers pitching so good and their hitting has been so futile, and that's the combination you get when you come to this ballpark. Low scoring.
Villardello at 208. Leary, as we mentioned, was 17-11 last year, but let's take a look at these stats first. The Dodgers are first in pitching,
well, they're
last in run production.
And they are leading the National League in runners left on base. What did they leave on, 10 or 11 yesterday? Tommy Lasorda with Bill Buehler, the trainer, behind him. Well, he knows there's still 3+ months to go. I guess that's why he can still smile.
Here it comes on 1-1.
And I'm sure Fred Clare, the general manager, is out or on the telephone daily talking about getting a leadoff hitter. When we were in Boston last week, they were talking about Dan Gladden. He's disabled. We've heard Boggs rumors. Somebody that can spark the attack out of that one spot.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Scoreboard was wrong. It read full count. Plate umpire Steve Ripley indicates 2-2. And here it comes from Leary. Foul back. Tim was 17-11 for the year. 0-1 in the league championship series against the Mets. Then was used out of the bullpen in the World Series against Oakland and played a very overlooked role in the first game. Tim Belcher was chased after a Canseco grand slam. Leary came in and pitched 3 strong innings to help hold the 4th, and that set the stage for the Gibson homer off Eckersley. Now it's a full count.
The first 2 innings, Leary was relying a lot on the forkball and the split-fingered fastball. He's thrown a couple more fastballs in this inning. Perhaps he's getting loosened up, and after he showed the forkball, established that with Rick Dempsey, he feels now the fastball might look a little tougher on the hitters. He'll be late on him.
And he walked him, the first base runner against Leary. The graphic you saw just a second ago is a significant one. He has lasted into the 6th inning, not through the 6th inning, in barely half of his starts. That's not a good figure.
Well, you look at his numbers as compared to last year. The hits per innings have gone up slightly, and it's still early in the season. The walk total's gone up a little bit, and the strikeouts have come down in relation to figures last year. That's Joe Ferguson, who's paging through some defensive reports or hitting reports. He's going hit and run with the pitcher.
The throw by Dempsey. He's gone.
Rick, you better come back. He's in the dugout. He thinks it's the 3rd out. Come on back, Rick. Look at how sheepish he's coming. He said, whoops, sorry. There's a sign miss here, obviously. It's either a bunt and run or a slug bunt with the catcher, Bill Ardella, going. Jimmy Leland's trying to steal a base here. I don't mean steal a base for Bill Ardella. I'm talking about maybe move up a base instead of a double play with 1 out. There's no contest. Rick made such a good throw, he wanted to run into the clubhouse, admired it on the instant replay.
Now Smiley drives one to right center field, gives it a pretty good ride, but Gonzalez gets there, and as Dempsey heads for the dugout, he can only be thankful that he'll be facing Lasorda and not his old antagonist, Earl Weaver. Man, Weaver would have been all over him after something like this. You know what? He might not have tagged him.
Well, when the ball beats the runner by that much, they're going to give you the out.
And they did. Another angle here, and Bilardello is clearly safe. The throw beats him by plenty, but watch Griffin's lunging tag never got him, and neither did he reach back to get him after Bilardello's foot briefly came off the bag. But Terry Tata said it was good enough. Ball 1 to Jose Gonzalez. Now he lifts one down the left field line. Here's Barry Bonds in pursuit. Diving grab. What a play.
Well, for many years, you've heard the name left field in the National League synonymous with Kevin McReynolds or Vince Coleman, who throws well and outruns baseballs. More and more people are saying, and the advantage of being a left-handed thrower shows right here. The disadvantage is trying to throw somebody out from that corner, but Bonds does both well. I mean, just an exceptional play, battling the white shirts, a bright, bright sky here in L.A. It's a great play.
And a ball to Dempsey.
And those plays are oftentimes even bigger when you make it on the first hitter in an inning.
In limited duty, Rick's hitting just 157. He has a homer, slices it foul, and we take another look. Keep in mind, they were not playing Gonzalez to pull Smiley, so he had a lot of ground to cover. It was hit softly toward that line, and he makes the tumbling catch. Smiley back to work on 1-1, and the fastball is fouled off Bilardello's mask.
Rick Dempsey looks like he's in stance number 1,100 today. He's closed off the plate. Times he's been on the plate with an open stance. When you don't play a lot, you get the tinkering too much, and he looks like he's going to his right field stance, something his old manager wanted him to do years ago, Earl Weaver. Why are you trying to pull everything?
Talking about Weaver.
That really got the home plate umpire. Luckily, I think that little, it's not a beard, but it's that little extension on the lower part of the mask. The man in the dugout we showed you a while ago, Bill Bueller's the guy who designed it. He designed that little beard that Steve Yeager wore. Remember that hanging down? This got him in the mask. It didn't hit below the mask.
And now here's a soft fly into shallow right center, and Van Slyke is there to make the catch. I was talking with Dempsey about Weaver yesterday, and the reason why Earl would have been all over Dempsey for getting the number of outs in the top half of this inning is that Dempsey gave it back to Earl in equal measure. He was telling me about one occasion against the Twins when Dan Ford came up with runners at second and third and one out, and Larry Heisel, who was in the midst of a 100 RBI season, just tearing up the league, was on deck. And Dempsey orders Ford walked, rather Weaver does, and Dempsey says, Earl, you can't do that. And Earl very profanely makes it clear that he will absolutely countenance no back talk. You will do as I say, Rick. I am the general. You are a foot soldier. So they walk forward, and up comes Heisel. Then Weaver's standing in the dugout, literally pulling at his hair because he thought the hitter was Heisel. He thought he was walking Heisel, and instead he walked forward to pitch to him with the bases loaded. So Heisel doubles to win the game. Dempsey comes back to the dugout, and Weaver says to him, don't ever let me do anything stupid like that again. What's wrong with you? How could you let me do that? 2-2 now to Leary.
You talk about Earl. I happened to be in Baltimore. I saw a couple of games in the middle of last week, and Earl was there. He's having back problems, can't play golf, may have to have surgery, so I got a chance to talk to him about 5 minutes on Wednesday. He's doing okay. He's happy. Misses the game, but not the managing part. Or to doing stupid things. He doesn't miss that either.
Check swing roller down to first, and Reedus takes care of Leary. With the help of a great play by Barry Bonds in left, Smiley works a perfect third. Nobody's broken through yet at Dodger Stadium. He was telling me some incredible Earl Weaver stories, not all of which can be shared here, but one that fans might have seen on This Week in Baseball some 8-9 years ago came when Dempsey had irritated Weaver. Got caught in a rundown play, and Weaver thought that it was poor base running on Rick's part, and he yanked him from the game right in the middle of the game. And Dempsey didn't believe it and went back out with the catching equipment on, and Frank Robinson, then a coach for Earl, had to walk out and say, Rick, this time he really means it. He's been threatening to humiliate you this way for years. This time he means it. You got to leave. So Dempsey goes into the dugout and slowly takes off every piece of equipment, and as he does, he throws each piece at Earl. And Earl picks it up and throws it back. So they're having a fight with shin guards, masks, chest protectors, while players are convulsed in laughter all around them, and the game is going on the field. A ball to Bonds.
I'm waiting for this punchline. Hurry, hurry.
Well, that's the story.
No, I thought there was more. Oh, I'm sorry. And there was this long pause, and I was saying, here it comes, folks. Be ready.
Okay, so here's the punchline.
Yes.
They kissed and made up, and they rented a beach house together in Malibu.
Good.
You happy now?
Good.
2-0.
So Leary shakes Dempsey off, wanted to go right back to a little fastball. Here's Barry leading off this inning for Jimmy Leland's Pirates, and here's what he did to the leadoff hitter in the third, Jose Gonzalez. Perhaps saved a couple of bases.
2-2 to Bonds, who struck out looking his first time up. Toronto pecks away with a run. Young 3-1 in the 8th at home.
Young Todd Stottlemyre just called up, was scheduled to start that game. Dave Stevens had some shoulder problems.
Strikes him out swinging this time. 2 strikeouts for Leary. Bonds the victim on each occasion.
Watch this pitch and how late it explodes. It's the split-fingered fastball, and right in the hitting area, the front part of the plate, bottom drops out. The reason that pitch is so good, when down there, it's got about 3 different dimensions. Change of speed, downward direction, and sideward direction. And some pitchers, looks like Leary can do it. I don't know if he can do it at will, as by different finger pressures can make it act like a screwball to some left-handed hitters and go into the others.
0-1 to Lean, who lined hard to center his first time up. It's Drabek against Tudor here tomorrow. Tudor worked into the 5th in his first start since coming off the DL with shoulder and elbow miseries a few days ago against San Diego. Wasn't involved in the decision. There's a liner to right, and Lean has the first base hit of the day for the Pirates.
You know, when I watch Leary pitch and try and recall the way he looked last year, and of course Ron Peronowski, his pitching coach, got all kinds of tapes when a guy's going well and going poorly. Doesn't look like he's over the top as much. I don't know why. I don't know if that's a tiredness in the shoulder or something mechanical. Looks like he's not sidearm, but not quite 3/4 as he ordinarily threw.
Van Slyke hit the ball sharply his first time up, grounding to Murray at first. Andy was 4th in the MVP balloting last year, behind Gibson, Strawberry, and McReynolds. The Sporting News named him the National League Player of the Year. Down and in, ball 1.
Lean does not steal a lot, but when he does go, and Jimmy Leland may elect to keep that right side open for Van Slyke to try and pull the ball through, but Lean does 6 steals and have not been caught yet this year. Pirates have 74 in the season, high percentage of steals.
Not going, and a strike.
If nothing else, with the threat of a running game in this situation, as you look at Gene Lamont, the third base coach, the hitter perhaps will get a few more fastballs. Rick Dempsey conscious as you look to see if Lasorda wants to call a pitch out, or Joe Ferguson, who's on the bench. You get that fork ball down in the dirt, it's tough to throw somebody out on.
Cal Daniels has homered. Barry Larkin connected earlier. Now 3-0 the Reds over the Mets. He committed himself on that one. 1-2. Van Slyke at 28. just entering the prime of his career and already established as one of the best players all around in baseball. Missed a good chunk of this season with a variety of injuries earlier. Just hitting his stride now. Struck him out.
Again, that devastating pitch that perhaps pioneered in the National League by Bruce Sutter, who's out of baseball now. That split-fingered fastball.
Watch the bottom drop out of this one, Tony.
You don't see it till it's too late. That guy right there, you've just mentioned how good he is. How many different ways can he beat you? I mean, I don't know if anybody in the National League can beat you in as many different ways as Van Slyke. That great throwing arm, his speed, power.
Bonilla now out on a comebacker his first time up.
I'm not so sure the background for the hitters is that good in day baseball here either. The fans are sitting out toward left center field, and there's a hitting eye directly in center, but Leary, to a left-handed hitter, is throwing out of those white shirts.
Ground ball toward the hole. Here's Willie Randolph. Can't get it with his dive. Lean wheels around second, and they'll have runners at the corners with 2 out.
Age has cut down Willie Randolph's range, and as you said, they're still making double play, but the additional thing is playing with that tinge in the hamstring muscle, and the range is cut down even more.
He'll be 35 on Thursday. In this instance, though, it might have been the hamstring more than anything else. You could see how gingerly he went after that. He did not dive headlong for it.
Well, and what they do when he's trying to come back by it is Mariano Duncan, who was disabled today, they tape it as tightly as they can, or elastic bands, and it cuts down your range. It restricts you to prevent you from re-injuring it.
R.J. Reynolds with good numbers. Came in hitting .313. Fouls it off. We get word from Riverfront that Dwight Gooden has been pulled in the 3rd inning.
Shoulder again, I wonder. It's the 3rd time he's gone out where he's had a little tenderness in the shoulder, and he's tried to pitch through it.
Leary trying to pitch out of the game's first jam here. Leaned and Bonilla with singles in the 4th. 1st and 3rd, 2 out. He's ahead of Reynolds 0-1. And now R.J.'s in a 2-strike hole. He is from the George Hendricks School of slacks fashion. Check his baseball pants down at his shoe tops as he swings and misses at this one.
Little cut fastball. Though you can see, even though he's basically a 2-pitch pitcher, that forkball does a few different things according to the speed, and he can shoot the little cutter into the left-hander's hand. There's another one. He
broke his bat. Slow roller. Randolph's going to throw him out. And the Pirates strand 2 in the 4th. We'll step aside and return after this. Go demonstrating the bionic forearm bash with one of his teammates. The disabled players, Gott and Bream, are with the ball club on this West Coast swing. They go back home Tuesday against the Giants.
Some theorize that the closers like Jim Gott have to be a little in a different world. And when he got traded over to the Pirates, and of course it was in Toronto, then San Francisco, the first trip they went up to Montreal, he had an off day. What did he do? He got in his car by himself, drove to Toronto to eat in his favorite Chinese restaurant. I mean,
well, you do have to be quirky.
You think he would have called the restaurant and gotten Chinese food sent over, driving all the way there.
3 balls and a strike to Griffin, starting it off here in the last half of the 4th.
You know, boy, they miss him. No telling how many games he's meant. What, half a dozen to 10, somewhere between 5 and 10 games that he's meant to this ball club not being there the way they've had to change their pitching staff around. And that's the difference being independent race or 6 games behind in the loss column.
Walks Griffin.
Boy, that's hard to do. But you got about 10 all year.
And now here comes Willie Randolph, and they're in a situation where they can play a little hit and run. Willie very adept at that.
Well, I think you'll probably have him trying to bunt. You know, fastball at the right shoulder just flew out, and the arm dragged, and he rode it high and away. But he'll come in, and Reedus will be charging. Let's see what Tommy Lasorda did yesterday with a 3-1 count on Eddie Murray, batting from the left side, and runners on 1st and 2nd. he started the 2 runners. And that's with your cleanup hitter. So no telling what Tommy's going to try and do to manufacture runs. Hit and run, bunt and run, straight steal. Randolph can handle almost all of those. They may throw over just to try and find something out. Nope.
Griffin dancing off of first, and there's the change in for a strike to Willie, who hit just .230 last year for the Yankees, but he's only 2 seasons removed from a .305 performance in 1987. Amalfitano with the signs out of the third base coaching box. A ball and a strike.
Very wisely, you say Jose leaned, not cheating too much towards second base. There is a gap there to the right side for Randolph, but some second basemen might, in this situation, play right up the middle of the diamond in case there's a bunt or so they could get to the bag for the double play. But he's not giving too much ground. He's got tremendous range to his left. And he can overplay a little bit more towards second base because of that.
You know, you think about all the people the Dodgers have used in the leadoff spot. You mentioned that Randolph, still a fine player, is more a number 2 hitter than a leadoff man now. And now they have Griffin at the top of the order. For a while, just to shake things up, Tommy Lasorda put Kirk Gibson at the top of his lineup. And then you look over to Baltimore, where the former Dodger, Mike Devereaux, is performing well, splitting time with Brady Anderson in center. He could have been the leadoff man. Of course, they got a quality pitcher for him in Mike Morgan, who leads the league in ERA. There goes the runner, and Willie bunts but foul.
I do believe Alfredo Griffin had it stolen. It is almost a look of disgust when he saw the ball trickling foul or even the bat on it. He got an excellent jump. Don't know if he knew something or Manny Mota, the first base coach, but it was almost like first move. Smiley was looking right at him, had the right leg up in the air, knew he was going. Alfredo picks up the ball, and right there he sees it trickle foul.
Tommy Lasorda, 61 years old, 6 division titles, 4 pennants, 2 world championships, and about 30 pounds lighter than when we saw him on March 1st.
When's the last time you saw Tommy, as he did yesterday, give up at least 4 or 5 plates of pasta with this homemade red sauce on it?
He was dishing it out, but not sampling it himself.
Tommy Lasorda's red sauce. In the back, he's got wife Joe and his pictures on it.
Squibbed down to first. Reedus makes the play to second. The Dodgers will have runners at first and third as Griffin pops up and sprints to third. Reedus gambled. He had the sure out in front of him at first, but wanted to erase the lead runner and threw it wide of Quinones covering.
And I wonder if that isn't why he throws the ball away, as he is in motion here, as he doesn't get a good grip. The ball rolled down his glove. Remember, he's used to playing most of his career with an outfielder's glove. Didn't have a good grip, and I wonder when he was about to throw, he didn't think, should I have stepped on first base and then gone for the out at second?
Look what Quinones tried to do, too, though. He could have come off the bag and caught it, but he was trying to stretch like a first baseman and get the out. Instead, they not only don't get the out, they give up the extra base to Griffin.
There's an old baseball saying that Frankie Crescetti, a great third base coach and great shortstop for those Yankee teams, told me, you always play the ball and not the bag. And he played the bag, and you see what happened. It's first and third.
Dodgers with a chance to break in front. Gibson to the plate. Takes inside.
Tried to get hit by that pitch, didn't he?
Kirk last year, only the second man in history to win an MVP award in a season in which he didn't make the All-Star team. Hank Greenberg had been the first in the 30s. He pops one into foul ground, and Bonilla shades his eyes and has it.
Fastball off the plate inside, and that's what American League players find when they come over here. Bill Bradley found it. Lance Parrish found it. Gibson adjusted well to it last year, but they just pound you inside with fastballs in this league. So used to those smaller ballparks in the American League, and they trick you more. Off-speed, curveballs. And so many times it isn't until the second half of the season where an American League hitter coming over adjusts to the fastball. They've got a lot of, this is like the AL West Dodgers right here with all the American Leaguers they've got.
Murray in an RBI spot, and with 43 of them to his credit, takes the fastball inside.
First 4 hitters for the Dodgers today: Griffin, Randolph, Gibson, Murray, all from the American League. You go down to Rick Dempsey, Leary, had some time in the AL. Mike Davis, he played yesterday.
Murray has discarded the glasses in favor of contacts this season. Hits the off-speed pitch almost straight up.
And you believe this? This has happened all year long in the Dodgers. Wow. The 3 and 4 hitters with nobody out in third base, man on third and first.
In Eddie Murray, you're looking at a guy who had 5 100 RBI seasons in Baltimore, and in fact, he had 99 one season during that streak, and the strike season of 81 fell in the middle of it. So give him 1 more RBI in one campaign and eliminate the strike, he would have topped 100 7 straight seasons. One of the great RBI men of his generation.
You know, you wonder, and we talked about the difference in the pitching style, and yes, it does still exist, American and National League, and so many sluggers come over from the other league, and coming out of those smaller ballparks, they're looking for that hanging curveball or that off-speed pitch to try and hit the 3-run home run, Earl Weaver's favorite play, and they get hit on the fist. Just what happened to Murray and Gibson. They get powered away.
So instead of blowing up after the walk and the error put him in a tough spot, Smiley bears down. He gets Gibson and Murray to pop out and now works on Marshall.
And he's gone to his power step. He always threw very hard. In fact, a lot of the credit, Jimmy Leland and Ray Miller, the pitching coach, say should go to Rocky Bridges. They said they were about ready to release this kid. Smiley threw hard, couldn't throw strikes. Bridges made him a closer. He gained his control, his confidence. He was a closer for this team, and now he's a starter.
Fouled off, 1 and 2 in 150 at-bats. Marshall is hitting just 171 with runners in scoring position. He grounded into a double play his first time up, following Murray's leadoff single in the second. Last half of the fourth, no score. In the top half of this inning, the Pirates left runners at first and third, but they didn't get into that spot until 2 were out, and Leary got R.J. Reynolds to ground to second, breaking his bat to end the inning. Here the Dodgers had first and third, nobody out. Smiley trying to wriggle free. Liner caught by Quinones. A soft line drive, and Quinones puts a finish to the last half of the fourth. More frustration for the Dodgers back after this from your local station.
Cheers. Get their defense off the hook. And vice versa. Smiley jammed badly the 3 and 4 hitters, Gibson and Murray, and then this play by Quinones. That left side of the diamond when Quinones is playing on with Bonilla has already made 33 errors for the Pirates. But that was a sensational dive by Quinones.
Reedus, Quinones, and Bilardello against Leary in the fifth, no score. Off speed and a strike. The Pirates have the worst overall defense, at least statistically, in the National League. And Bonilla, who throws up the big numbers offensively, has, as we said, committed 17 errors at third, and he led the league with 32 a year ago, trying to learn a new position, had been an outfielder before that. Fastball just beneath the knees, 1-1. Leary was 3-11 2 years ago. Bounced back to 17-11 for the world champions in '88. Fouled off. The Dodgers have so much pitching depth that they can take a guy like Tim Belcher, Game 1 starter of the World Series last year, a guy who's pitched 3 shutouts this year, and move him out of their starting rotation to the bullpen when John Tudor comes back. Ramon Martinez is 11-1 at Albuquerque. They brought him up for a spot start this year when the schedule backed up on them. Pitched a 7-hit shutout at Atlanta, and they sent him back to the minors the next day. And that gives them the flexibility to at least talk about a wide variety of deals. They coveted Dykstra, Ricky Henderson. They had some interest in him. Juan Samuel, trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, take care of their need for a leadoff man and a center fielder in the same deal, and it's always pitching that's the bait. Reaches for it, hits it softly into left. Gibson won't get there, and a base hit for Reedus to start the 5th.
And an outstanding base stealer on. He went after forkball down, was completely fooled, but somehow got loft into the left field area.
Tomorrow, Sports World spans the Atlantic with 2 vastly different and thrilling racing events. From the Emerald Island, it's the Budweiser Irish Derby, a race rich in tradition and a showcase of Europe's finest 3-year-olds. And back on the American side of the ocean, Sports World travels to the turbulent Savage River in Maryland for the exciting and often dangerous World Whitewater Canoe and Kayak Championships. That's all tomorrow on NBC. Watch Reedus at first, not going on the first pitch, which Quinones fouls off.
Gary Reedus has stolen 14 and caught just 2 times, and coming out of the Cincinnati organization with that great speed, Reedus generally steals about 8 of 10 times, and even better than that percentage-wise over his career. I wonder if Reedus isn't watching to see what kind of grip. So many times the forkball pitcher has the forkball grip behind his back and then can change to the fastball, as opposed to the fastball grip, and then when you change to the forkball, you have to force it between the fingers, and sometimes the hitter can detect that. It can be a tip-off.
So sometimes they'll start with a forkball grip and then loosen it and rearrange in the glove.
Many do. Tom Hankey does, and many of the other forkball pitchers, or split-fingered fastball. What happens, though, you go into the forkball into your glove, and sometimes with a base stealer like Reedus, you know he's stealing. You got the forkball grip, and you can't get a quick move to first base.
One and one to Quinones. Gene Lamont with the signs from the third base coaching box. Pirates trying to build on a 6-game winning streak.
Quinones with good bat control. Tried to take one shot to right field. There
goes the runner. Pitch out. Dempsey unloads. High throw. Got him anyway.
Well, the man sitting in the other dugout, Ray Miller, the pitching coach for the Pirates, was talking about Dempsey yesterday. As Dempsey was with the Baltimore at that same time, he said, I just have never seen a catcher with as good a mechanics throwing and shifting as Rick Dempsey. We got to remember, Ray didn't see a whole lot of Johnny Bench and some of the others. But there he is, Alfredo, this time straddling the bag when he missed the tag before he got caught up to the infield side. But just outstanding mechanics, and looked like Reedus had a decent jump. Pitch out done very well as Leary unloaded, didn't tip the pitch off out. I think his glasses may be broken, and he's getting help from Alfredo.
So Dempsey now has gunned down 2 would-be base stealers today. And in limited duty this season, he's caught 35%, 7 of 20, which is pretty good. Dempsey with a chance to become a 4-decade man if he plays next year. Got in 5 games and 6 at-bats for the 1969 Twins. So he might very well make it 4 if he lasts into the 90 season. And he definitely says he wants to. No intention of retiring. Pop to the right side. Here's Murray in foul ground, making the catch as he battles the sun.
Catcher, Dan Villardello.
Eddie, known well in the prime of his career as an outstanding first baseman. And some people felt that maybe at night baseball, before he went to the glasses and with different prescriptions of contact, he wasn't picking the ball off the bat. Tough sun here. No wind to contend with, which is nice.
Swing and a miss by Villardello. Here's the look at potential 4-decade men. Stretching it to include Tommy John, it appears his career is over. Although he would have been the most remarkable of all because he didn't start in the late 60s. He started in 1963. But the others, Fisk and Darrell Evans, Bill Buckner, Jerry Royce, they have a crack at it. Looks like that one will make the seats.
Haven't the White Sox already talked about bringing Minnie Minoso back into their new ballpark?
Yeah.
She'll be ready about 1991, and Minnie's going to be what? He's got to be over 60 to say the least. Maybe Minnie's going to play in that league they're proposing down in Florida. They've got over 500 applicants for that Veterans League down there.
What a wild idea that is. Here's a bouncing ball to the left side. Hamilton cuts in front of Griffin, throws over and got it. Did you see what Griffin did behind him? Griffin went through with a phantom throw. Looked like a Marx Brothers routine. That'll do it. On to the bottom of the 5th. You'll find Mike Morgan, and he, as much as anybody, embodies the futility of the Dodgers with the bats. He's got a league-leading ERA of 1.60, but a record of 5-7 because they've averaged only 2.3 runs a game for him. In the 14 games he started, they've gotten more than 3 runs only once.
Was that 3 or 4 years ago? Nolan Ryan had led the league in ERA and had the atrocious 1-loss record with Houston. Ooh.
In '87, Noli was 8-16, averaged 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, had an ERA of 2.76, and lost twice as many games as he won. Hamilton, the hitter. Liner up the middle. That's the way the Dodgers start the last half of the fifth. Well,
Jeff Handelman is improving. Excuse me, Bob, as a hitter. He'll still swinging some bad pitch, but Ben Hines is the hitting instructor. Manny Mota also serves in that area, but he seems much more relaxed this year than last. More, there's Joe Ferguson, who relays a lot of signs, along with Billy Russell. Some of these players. Tommy Lasorda really uses bench strips. Ron Peronowski.
Gonzalez, who was robbed on a sensational catch near the left field line by Barry Bonds to start the third. When the Dodgers go to St. Louis in a couple of days, Mike Morgan can confer with Joe McGrain, who last year led the National League with an ERA of 2.18 and somehow managed to win only 5 while losing 9. Victims of non-support.
You look at this Dodger team, they don't have a heck of a lot of speed. You know, Willie Randolph with a bad leg. Griffin will steal on occasion. Gibson's been hurt off and on all year, and they've gotten to be a team where instead of stealing bases, which is more often than not been their image down through their history, it's like play one base at a time or create an opening by hit and running. And that's what John Smiley's thinking about right now, and Dan Billardello is asking him to throw over a couple times.
Now he works to the plate, and it's down low for a ball.
Billardello looking in again, and many times you look into Leland, and then you look over to the third base coach to see if he can detect something there being relayed.
Sliced off foul. The Giants lead by 2 in the National League West. They've got Russell going for his 13th today against Greg Maddux at Candlestick. That's the story here. Pirates with 3 singles off Leary. Dodgers with 2 singles against John Smiley.
And was Hojo, Howard Johnson, starting to make a run at Kevin Mitchell for the home run race? What's it, 25-21 now?
The 1-1 delivery. In there for a strike. Official word from Cincinnati, Dwight Gooden was forced to leave the game in the third after Larkin and Daniels had homered against him. He had stiffness in his right shoulder, the 2+ innings constituting the shortest appearance of Gooden's career. Now the 1-2. Got him looking. And Gonzalez isn't quite sure what Ripley was looking at.
Boy, for a guy who's a power pitcher like John Smiley is, and we've seen a great changeup and a good curveball, watch him spot this fastball. Billardello put the one side down fastball, set up inside. Gonzalez, who had been trying to shoot the ball in right field before 2 strikes, just gets vapor locked.
And the key on that is not where Billardello caught it. Get that fastball running in on him. It probably got a good portion of the plate as it crossed the front tip of the dish. Dempsey now. Fly to center is only time up.
That was the pitch right there, Bob, that some are calling the cut fastball now, and some used to be called the true slider. And basically, Ray Miller taught him the curveball, then taught him the changeup next, the circle change, and now Smiley has gone to him and said, look, I used to throw a good slider. And Miller said, hey, if you want to throw a slider, throw some of those too. So that might have been that little quick slider you started to throw again.
1-0 to Dempsey.
What Miller is conscious of, though, and he's seen it happen before, he has seen so many guys with a good curveball, which Smiley has, and as soon as they start throwing the slider too, because of the different mechanics in the pitch, you get a swerve and you lose one or the other.
On 1-0. Called strike. You think about the guys that Dempsey has played for. Billy Martin, Ralph Houck, Earl Weaver, Lasorda. What a baseball education. And he says he'd like to manage someday. Outside, 2-1.
And think of the education he got handling the pitching staffs that he did, which is one of the reasons why the Dodgers got him. He'd had some success with those 4 20-game winners with Baltimore. And then the Flanagans and the McGregors and Jim Palmer. And maybe the best thing ever happened was when he was at Cleveland and Bo Jackson rolled him over, knocked his shoulder out, and thought he'd never play again. The Dodgers picked him up.
Line drive foul, 2-2.
I mean, it's a terrible way to get on a world championship team to have Bo Jackson knock you back into the dugout in a collision at home plate. But Cleveland didn't take him back. And he ended up right here.
Rick has had just 71 at-bats, hitting 157. One out, one on the 2-2 pitch. But first, Hamilton is chased back. We're in the last half of the fifth. No score thus far.
Even when Smiley goes home with that high, deceptive leg kick, it's difficult to get any kind of jump. You can see Hamilton at first, not a real good runner, but he seems to be leaning back to first. And
up and in, full count. Lee Smith got the save, his 10th. And the Red Sox are just trying to fill out that ailing starting rotation. Hetzel up from Pawtucket beats Stottlemyre.
And you can see what the Sky Dome does to pitching. I'm sure the dome was open and the wind was coming off Lake Ontario. A 3-0 game yesterday, 3-1 today. Toronto just 11-1 game down in Baltimore.
There's a ball popped up, foul ground. Bonilla. It was a battle, but he clutches it for the second out.
Pitcher, Tim Leary.
So many gloves these days, Bob, are the closed web glove. Al Kaline used to not only put the glasses down, but look through that open web glove. Like an H webbing in Bonilla's glove, so when it's right in the center of the sun, you need more help sometimes than just the sunglasses. And he looked like he was peering through the webbing of the glove to take the rays of the sun.
Leary grounded to first his first time up, tries to bunt for a hit, but Villardello has it. Wait a minute, this play is being waved off.
I think it hit him in the batter's box. That's what the second base umpire says. He's going to get another crack. Looked like Terry Tate is saying it hit his leg and hit him in the batter's box. And now Reedus is saying, hey, Terry, you're at second base. How can you call from there? Why don't you ask the home plate umpire, Steve Ripley? But Tate called it. And really, it's an easier play for him because it's in front of him. Ripley's watching the call of the strike zone, watching to see maybe where he is in the batter's box. Terry Tate appeared to make an alert call. Perhaps the replays will show whether it hit him or not. And Terry Tate was very definitive in this call. Very definitive, and it looked like it brushed off the thigh of Leary while he's in the batter's box. So it's a foul ball. You got to remember that part of the batter's box is in fair territory, but that doesn't matter. You're in the batter's box, and we'll see it from this same angle that Terry Tate is seeing. For our camera in center field is right behind him. He's just going to try and beat this out. I'll tell you what did, it hit his bat. I believe it hit his bat. That is unintentional, so he'll get another crack at it.
Did it hit his bat twice, or did it hit part of his hand, or what?
Well, it hits the bat for the bunt, and then it hits the bat and hand, but he's in the box, so either way, it's a foul ball.
And the count 0-1. Smiley works again. Tap foul, no balls and 2 strikes.
That's an excellent call. That's really an alert umpire right there, because he's looking out of the corner of his eye to see if the runner off first base is breaking, trying to stay out of the view of the center fielder. Jimmy had a little discussion and knew Tato was right.
Behind second base, leaned. In from right, Reynolds to make the catch. Leary for the season now 1 for 32 as a hitter. Tatum got the call right, and we move on to the 6th.
Must be, huh?
Correct.
Then
As I
there will
just
be
said,
a lot of intensity and drama next week.
If I just said the fortnight reaches its midpoint,
2 weeks,
would it not be a reasonable deduction?
Yes, sir.
Smiley, Bonds, and leaned in the 6th.
A man who's obviously read his Shakespeare as a young man.
Correct. And as is usually the case with your comments, much ado about nothing. Breaking ball low.
Oh, man. Sometimes when I hear you speak during a baseball telecast, I almost feel you ought to have your own late-night talk show. You're more varied subjects than just baseball.
What an inspirational idea. 2-0. Both the pitchers today are conspicuously weak hitters. I've got the outside corner. Smiley at 059 and Leary at 030.
They've both hit in bad luck all year long.
Yeah. 2-2 now. We're in the 6th, no score.
We were talking a while ago about Rocky Bridges, who's been a great minor league manager, and Leland giving him credit for John Smiley sticking with him. Did you see his latest line a couple weeks ago? Went into a restaurant and the guy offered him snails. He said, no, I prefer fast food.
Yes.
I mean, if he isn't the most quotable Andy Van Slyke is, what a way to start an inning, huh? You just read John Smiley's batting average off, and what does Leary do? He gives Tommy Lasorda fits.
There was no reason to be leery of that hitter, but Tim was. Lasorda and Russell shaking their heads about it.
And you should have stuck with Shakespeare.
Barry Bonds has struck out twice. Called third strike in the first, swinging in the fourth. And he pops it up. Looks like Dempsey will have room. Back near the screen. Has it. Whoa, almost popped out of there.
Oh, Barry Bonds just threw his bat and came close to the man on the on-deck circle. So, Jimmy Lee, I was just about to say, one of the advantages of not having a punch and Judy as your leadoff hitter, and Barry Bonds, as we indicated, has great power. You don't have to bunt with him. And he got a fastball maybe out of the strike zone up that he tried to pull. And Dempsey battles the sun, and it almost slithered away, but he got it. Barry was so anxious to hit that ball through the right side, he perhaps went out of his strike zone.
So now leaned. Product of Puerto Rico has hit the ball hard twice, line to center, and then singled to the opposite field in the fourth. You mentioned how acrobatic he is. He proved that in a unique way last season when he vaulted over Joe Garagiola's head on a pregame show, and I tell you, he would have cleared Joe even had the G-Man had an elaborate pompadour. He cleared him with about a half foot to spare. Here's the 1-0.
Would you like to have him get in a high jumping contest with Mike Devereaux, the former Dodger? 4-0 Cincinnati, good and left, as we told you, with a little shoulder tenderness or stiffness. I wonder if they'll have to back him off and miss a start.
This will be a 2-0 pitch to Lean. In there. How about the Mets going into Montreal head-to-head? And Pascual Perez, who's back on the beam now, at least
right on 12,
11, I think, and beat Dwight Gooden head-to-head. They swept the series.
Well, that is not a team that's just hot. Look at the quality players got and quality pitchers. The addition of Langston now. You talk about Hubie Brooks, the great RBI man, Tim Raines, Galarraga.
Here's a chopper, and it's off the glove of the leaping Hamilton. And Smiley has to stop at second.
Because of Lean's bat control, Hamilton, even with one out and the pitcher on first base, was playing up about even with the bag. And because of the threat of a bunt, he can't get to this one. Wouldn't have been a sacrifice bunt, but Lean batting in the 2 slot with Van Slyke, Bonilla coming up, the RBI guys. Hamilton thought he might try and drop a bunt down and beat it out.
Van Slyke now at 0 for 2. 2 on, 1 out. Bonilla on deck. Pirates trying to break through in the 6th. Smiley at second and Leaned at first.
And you just wonder if Alfredo Griffin is going to try and put a pick on it. It's a scoreless ball game. A pitcher who doesn't get on much at second base, and Smiley, who's going to be trying to get a good jump on any kind of base set. And it's almost made, if Alfredo sneaks behind him, at least try and pull a pick off.
Strike 2.
Boy, some of his fastballs have been sailing in on the left-handed hitters, haven't they? Right beneath their fists in a great spot.
Van Slyke asking Ripley where it was. You saw Chicago's lead on San Francisco 2-0 early at Candlestick. Giants lead Houston by 2 and the Reds by 5.5 in the West. Dodgers are next to last, 9.5 off the pace, 4 under 500. The 0-2 pitch. Down and in the East, Montreal with a 2-game lead on the Mets, 2.5 on the Cubs. Cardinals are a game over 500 and 4 games back. Pittsburgh at 33 and 41, trailing by 8.5. American League East, Baltimore, with their pitching staff, really bombarded the last 2 nights, leading the Yanks by 5.5, Boston by 6.5. In the West, Oakland by half a game over California, 2 over Kansas City. And Leary steps off.
Here comes Alfredo again.
Bouncing ball by Leary, scooped up by Randolph onto Griffin and then to Murray for the double play.
Oh, was that quick? Did Willie Randolph get on that ball in a hurry and get rid of it in a hurry? Whoa.
Double play bails Leary out.
Middle infielder like Willie Randolph knows what the situation is before the ball's hit. He knew first and second. Lean would get an outstanding jump. Van Slyke running, great speed from the left side. He knew he had to get the ball to the hurry, unload it in a hurry. And all that pivot man on a double play wants is to have a chance not to be upset. And Randolph made that play. So what he's lost because of injury and age, you can see the hands and the quickness are still there, Bob.
Top of the order in the bottom of the 6th, Griffin, Randolph, Gibson. Strike on the outside corner and at the knees from Smiley. Griffin 0 for 1 with a walk. Started the day at 277. Hit. He stung that one, and he's aboard to open the 6th.
Little hanging breaking ball from John Smiley. And this once again helps set up, not too often this ball game, not too many base runners, sets up a little running game for Tommy Lasorda, or at least the bunt.
Randolph lined hard to center, then rolled to first, and Reedus threw the ball away trying to get the force at second base. That happened in the 4th. Here's a pitch out and nothing is on. Throw in behind by Villardello, but Griffin skips back.
Pitch out almost back to the screen if not for Dan Villardello. Smiley unloaded it so quickly and Griffin gave no indication that he might be running at all. Alfredo, just because he's shortened up on the bat didn't mean he was necessarily bunting. It may have been a decoy. I'm going to believe he's bunting, though. The Dodgers have had such a trouble scoring runs and with their bullpen pitching so well. And interesting, Randolph on the pitch out goes up the bat to bunt. That's a veteran player. Now the throw goes over to first, shows no indication to bunt. He's reading the situation well and trying to disguise it.
And the 1-0 pitch. No sign of the bunt as he takes a strike.
Joey Amalfitano, the man who started learning his trade as a bonus player with the Giants when Leo DeRocher was the manager. He had that Cubs manager's job for a while.
Now the bunt. Smiley's going to make the play. First is his only choice. Successful sacrifice for Randolph.
So, back-to-back half innings, we've seen Randolph start a double play, and now, if Costas is a heady broadcaster, Randolph will have to be tabbed as a heady ball player. I said, if you are.
We get word that Barry Larkin has been removed from that game at Riverfront with a corneal abrasion. Ooh. Larkin bound for the All-Star game as Ozzie Smith's backup. Had a home run earlier in the day off Dwight Gooden. Here's Gibson trying to snap the scoreless tie. Swings and misses.
And I think you saw that Randolph at bat why Tommy Lasorda was reluctant to bunt on the first pitch. He was going to try and create some movement because Gibson from the left side against Smiley, tough left-hander. Gibson struggling, Murray struggling. He didn't want to give up an out that easily. He was going to hope that Randolph was swinging the bat better and is right-handed, might be able to advance without giving himself up. Finally, Tommy relented and had him bunt.
Gibson's last at-bat, first and third, nobody out. Fouled out to Bonilla alongside third base. His average tumbling down near 235. You know, it's remarkable that Gibson, who has been an impact player among the best-known players of his generation and has delivered so many big hits in postseason play, has never been an all-star, and he won't be this year. 2-1. He has never been on an all-star team, even as a reserve.
Well, it's probably because, although he can be so dramatic in so many things he does, and so dynamic with his speed and power, that he's had a lot of injuries for one thing throughout his career, and he's never really had that consistent year, which gives him into a superstar category.
The 2-1. 3 balls and a strike. You saw the graphic about winning the MVP. We mentioned that earlier without ever having made it to the All-Star game. Hank Greenberg was the only one with that distinction prior to this year, if it is to be called a distinction. He won the MVP in '35, but never made the All-Star team until 1939. Of course, his contemporaries included Lou Gehrig and Jimmy Fox, so it took a while to crack the All-Star lineup. And there's a walk for Gibson, putting 2 on with 1 out for Eddie Murray.
They're doing some sign switching right now. Bill Ardella was sent out by Ray Miller or Jimmy Leland. Now Miller's going to come out, and they're going to call a middle infielder in. And Griffin on second base, a very smart player. In fact, Bobby Cox once said of him that don't tell him, but he's smarter than I am, when Cox managed him at Toronto. So they're fearful right now of signs or location being flashed, and Miller's going to go out and get all the infielders there. Maybe how to pitch to Murray, but they should know that by now, though Bill Ardella is just called up. But basically to switch sides so they can't be relayed.
The Pirates have been involved in a lot of close games lately, and for a change, they've been winning them. They've won 5 of the last 7 one-run games they've been involved in, and that obviously can be traced to Bill Landrum as the bullpen closer, and you got Bob Kipper and Doug Baer doing a good job now as the setup men.
And Neil Heaton, another left-hander down there, has been moved down, so Jimmy Leland and Ray Miller have 2 left-handers in their bullpen now, a luxury that Tommy Lasorda does not have. He only has Ricky Horton.
Murray at the plate, Marshall on deck. First pitch swinging, fly ball, left center, it's harmless. Van Slyke for the second out.
Couldn't tell, Bob, that looked like a little changeup that was high and away, not in a good spot, but Eddie Murray looked like his power was all but spent. Some of the weight was on the front foot and got a little on the end of the bat. So the Dodgers' problems in the middle of the order continue.
So the Dodgers are now 0 for 4 with a walk with runners in scoring position today. Murray has failed in 2 RBI opportunities. He's 1 for 3 overall, speaking of Eddie. And now here's Marshall, grounded into a double play and lined to Quinones at shortstop to end the 4th. Smashes it foul.
That's right where they try and keep the ball on Mike Marshall. Dive into the ball a little bit, likes to get the arms out, and they like to bust him inside. And if he does get the barrel out and any kind of mediocre fastball, he's going to pull it foul. If you've got something on it, he's going to jam himself. That's something years ago when they had Pedro Guerrero and Mike Marshall. He said, boy, one of these days, one of these guys is going to win the home run title in this ballpark, the National League, and they just never panned out.
In the air to right, and this will finish the Dodgers in the 6th. R.J. Reynolds puts the wrapper on it. Smiley wriggles free. Back after this from your local station.
This man looked like a klutz. He just dropped a big chair on my Tootsie. I
Your foot should have been there. Now, on to more important matters. Our congratulations go out to a mutual friend of ours, Rich Spector. He and his wife, Jill, welcomed their 3rd daughter into the world today. They live in nearby Irvine, California. And the reason why it is noteworthy, Rich told me yesterday as they were expecting this, their third child, all 3 daughters, that he is certain, his research must be very good, he is certain this child was conceived the night Kirk Gibson homered in Game 1 of the World Series last fall. So people in Los Angeles celebrated in a variety of ways after Gibson took Eckersley out of the park. And Rich and Jill, as a result of the festive atmosphere following Game 1 of the World Series, now have their 3rd child.
What a way to show your jubilation.
Well, I guess we've covered that subject. Bonilla in the 7th. Pirates have 4 hits, Dodgers 3. Nobody's touched the plate yet. Reynolds and Reedus will follow. He slices it just foul. Bobby Bonilla, out of the tough streets of the South Bronx, in the area of that borough encompassed by the 40th Police Precinct. You want to talk about a tough place to grow up.
Hey, you know how many good players came out of that area. Willie Randolph played right in that ballpark next to Yankee Stadium. Kenny Singleton. I mean, they're on and on and on.
2-2 to Bonilla.
Both pitchers have used their off-speed stuff very well today. Leary started off with a lot of the fork balls and split fingers, then mixed his fastball in. Smiley, he's a good changeup. Sneaky fast inside when he's needed it with men on. There's a fork ball.
Center field Gonzalez. 1 down in the 7th. Bonilla is now 1 for 3.
A lot of guys are getting hit on the end of the bat and then get to looking for the off-speed stuff, and the fastballs breaking their bats inside. I've seen about a half a dozen bats shattered so far today by these 2 pitchers. Not unusual in today's baseball, though, with the thin handles and the lightweight bats, 31, 30 ounces. Bat speed, that's what the players are looking for. Aaron Johnson with the Angels is getting some of his players to go a little heavier. So you still maintain bat speed, but you get that mass to drive the ball. The Angels are starting to hit again.
R.J. Reynolds takes outside, the Pirate right fielder today. They've had a succession of guys try that position since the heyday of Dave Parker, Steve Kemp, Joe Orsulak, George Hendrick, Mike Brown, and there were others. 2-0. Reynolds has twice grounded out. He was perhaps Leary's biggest hitter of the game so far. He broke his bat and got him to ground to second with runners at first and third to end the 4th. Bounces one up there. 3 balls and no strikes.
You know, we were talking earlier as we look at the Leary line to this point about possible trades, and you mentioned Cal Daniels' name was rumored here. I talked to a general manager the other day, this last week, and he shall remain nameless. He said he had 24 different deals sitting on the table, deal possibilities. And that's what these guys are going through. You get through into June, and you get the injuries, and you see whether you're a legitimate contender or not, and who can get you over the hump. And with all the injuries, so many people are trying to replace key players. And there's more talk of deals and more rumors in newspapers than I've ever heard.
Full count now to Reynolds. Mets peck away 4-2. Raining now in Cincinnati. And the Giants come back to tie it at home against the Cubs. Called strike 3. Leary was in the hole 3-0, and he comes back to get R.J. Reynolds for his 4th strikeout.
You've always got that split-fingered fastball in the back of your mind because you can swing at it when it bounces. It's an embarrassing pitch to swing at, like a Blyleven curveball in the dirt. So he just takes a fastball, and so often Leary has sailed the fastball into the hands of the left-handed hitter. This time he tails it away.
Reedus had a single his last time up. He's 1 for 2. He was caught stealing on a pitch out immediately thereafter. Down low to him for a ball. Friday night, one of baseball's most storied rivalries is renewed in a primetime edition of the Game of the Week. Yankees and the Red Sox from Fenway Park. or the Expos and Astros from Houston.
How about Dallas Green and Mr. Steinbrenner going at each other through the newspapers now?
Well, you saw what Dallas said at the very beginning of the year. He said, I am not going to be affected. If George begins to make phone calls or begins to badger me through the press, it will bother me less than almost anybody you can imagine, because, as Green put it in a very accurate self-assessment, I am temperamentally suited for conflict.
He went to the right place, didn't he? With all the personnel changes the Yankees have made to this point, and you lose Ricky Henderson goes to Oakland, and you get a couple pitchers and Polonia back, who had a good day yesterday. It's hard for a team to sustain with that many changes, but it's almost common in baseball these days. So much player movement.
1-2 to Ritas. Well, here are the Yankees, a game under 500, but only 5.5 games back of the division-leading Baltimore Orioles.
Tim Belcher, who was not real happy that he's been relegated to the bullpen.
The 1-2. Tipped back into Dempsey's glove. 2 strikeouts in the inning for Leary. 5 in the game. 7th inning stretch time at Dodger Stadium as we bring you another edition of
Husky is meant to so many pitchers, like a Tim Leary, Belcher, Morgan, and Leary, a guy who really has had difficulty with control at times during his career, has spotted his fastball in and out very well so far today, as has Smiley. He's gotten some big outs pitching inside. Some people say it's a lost art. Well, pitching inside of guys' heads has been stopped pretty much. Pitching at that left elbow to a right-handed hitter, still an outstanding pitch.
A ball and a strike to Hamilton, starting in the last half of the 7th, followed by Gonzalez and Dempsey. Smiley's pitch lined to left, but Bonds scarcely has to move.
The more you see Jeff Hamilton and his improvement over the last couple of years, the more you've got to like him. A great throwing arm, and he's got a chance, I think, someday to be 15 to 20 home run guy.
Gonzalez is fly to left and struck out. It's the only man Smiley has fanned. But you look at Smiley's walk to strikeout ratio. Last year he K'd 129 and walked just 46 in 205 innings. That's great control, especially for a young pitcher. That one just missed the inside corner. This year he's got 74 strikeouts and 29 walks. Still a very good ratio, although down a bit from last year.
He's gotten hurt by 11 home runs so far this year, but a lot of that is getting at hitters. First pitch strikes and maybe makes it a little too good trying to get ahead of the hitter. But you look at the success of the Orioles this year, boy, they don't throw many pitches. The lowest walk total in the major leagues. This is what Ray Miller focuses in on. He brought that over to the Orioles. Throw a lot of first pitch strikes, keep the ball down if you can, work fast.
Off-speed breaking ball was high. 2-2 with 1 out and nobody on. And this one is hit hard but foul. You know, Tony, you were talking about rumored deals. The papers here in Los Angeles have tracked Mel Didier, the Dodgers special assignment scout, whom we saw last Saturday at Fenway Park in Boston, looking at some Red Sox players and also perhaps getting a second look at Dan Gladden of the Twins. Now they've got him in Milwaukee on the trail of the Brewers. Foul back, still 2-2. Either Gary Sheffield, young shortstop who could play outfield, or Glenn Braggs, who would give the Dodgers some right-handed side.
Well, what you look at, 2 teams that have compatible needs, and Milwaukee's got 4 pitchers on the DL right now. Wegman now scheduled for surgery, and Birkbeck and Nieves gone, and they need some pitchers if they're going to get back in the East, and this team needs some hitters. So, but there are a lot of teams that have compatible needs and could trade with the Dodgers, and it's for one reason: the depth, as you mentioned earlier, of the Dodgers pitching staff. They've got some surplus there.
Shortly after we saw the Twins and the Red Sox, Dan Gladden went on the disabled list. According to baseball rules, you can't trade a guy while he's on the DL. So that's moot for the moment. On the 2-2, jammed him, check swing roll at a short. Quinones quick flip and got him.
Sometimes a Ray Quinones will drive you crazy with that nonchalant one-handed on the run, and I guess that's maybe why he's made, well, about 16, 17 errors. Artificial surface, you can get away with that a little bit more. Ball always bounds truly. You get on the dirt and the grass and the ball bounces off the side or stays down, you can get in trouble playing like this. But it looks nice.
What would Frankie Crosetti or Stengel or Houck have said if you played short that way?
Forget it. But
Dempsey is way out in front of the chain.
Those were all dirt and grass fields, and you had to be mechanically sound like a Trammell or a Ripken who play on dirt and grass.
Rick has flied to center, foul to third. Fastball swung on and missed. They're continuing to play through the rain in Cincinnati, is the report we just received.
This is the time of the game where Hall of Famer Whitey Ford always, and I think most great pitchers feel it's the best time of the game to pitch. That's the confidence level they have. They say changeups are more effective. Oh, Smiley's gone to 2 consecutive fastballs now to Dempsey. All hitters want to take the big swing, be the hero. 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, you pull the string, and they're way out in front. Let's see if that last fastball was to set up this off-speed pitch.
Another fastball up the ladder.
Hardest fastball he's thrown. He sees the pitcher on deck. He doesn't want to give Dempsey a base and maybe see a pinch hitter and a pinch runner.
Foul into the seats.
He's throwing right by him, and he looked like he's sitting on fastballs. So what I said earlier, he's a power pitcher, Smiley, who can finesse you. And he's done both in this game. That's how good he's become.
There really is a similarity between him and Viola. That 90-plus fastball and the circle change. It's more of a true change. It's not a change off the fastball where you're just taking 6, 7 miles an hour off of it.
There it was.
Bounce foul.
Well, sometimes that circle change, Alfredo's going to get his bunting in as the ball flies over his head in the dugout. It looks like a screwball at times, that circle change. It rolls off that little finger, Smiley's left hand, tails away and goes down. Mario Soto had a good one of these.
Tip back, Villardello holds it. You saw by that graphic that Smiley has been a rock in the middle of a stormy 1989 for the Pirates. He's 7-2, rest of the club 15 under.
Specify VHS or Beta, or send check or money order to Eye Level Videos, Post Office Box 7, Port Credit, Ontario. Sorry, no CODs. The top women tennis players in the world are coming to Toronto to the National Tennis Center, York University. The Players Limited Challenge is where new stars hope to shine, but Martina Navratilova aims for a 5th title. And defending champion Gabriela Sabatini hopes to stop her. Plus, top-ranked Jill Hetherington will be on hand. If you'll be in the Toronto area, get tickets at all Ticketron outlets or call Ticketron at area code 416-872-1212. The Players Limited Challenge, August 19th to the 27th.
One of baseball's most idyllic settings, Dodger Stadium in Chavez Ravine. They opened it up in 1962, and there's really no modern ballpark, no park built within the last 5 or 6 years that you'd rather visit than this one. Every seat is a good one. Of course, they have the advantage of Southern California weather. They've been able to keep the ticket prices low, usually the lowest in baseball. They draw over $3 million a year.
Traditionally, the Dodgers have been a team that has built great farm systems, built from within. Although the last few years, you can see how many imports they have from the other league. It paid off last year, but they're getting to the point now some of these imports are getting a little old.
Quinones pops up on the first pitch of the 8th. Everybody's got a crack at it, but Hamilton will do it. Leary would be the leadoff man in the last half of the 8th. Belcher was throwing earlier in the Dodger bullpen. This is only the 9th time in 16 starts that Leary has lasted beyond the 6th inning. locked in a scoreless duel with John Smiley. A strike to Bilardello.
He's always been a horse. You just talked about some of his short starts recently. But he's been a guy, and he had training down in the Mets farm system in Milwaukee for a while, where 150 pitches or more in one ball game wasn't a lot for Tim Leary. He's conserved his pitches so far today.
In 34 starts last year, he threw 9 complete games, 6 of them shutouts. He's gone the distance twice this year in his 15 previous starts.
And when you get a kind of year that Oral Hershiser had last year in postseason, you almost overlook a guy like Leary and what he meant with his wins and the postseason stats he threw up there, as you indicated earlier.
Fouled off 1-2.
There's Oral, who did a couple of un-Hershiser-like things yesterday. Didn't cover home plate, may have cost him a run. Then they came back and tied it 2-2, and Oral goes out there the next inning, gives up 2 runs. Boy, he makes more quality pitches than anybody around.
Bouncing ball,
right on the line.
Backs up. Long throw, got Bilardello.
You can see what happens. The fork ball, and for Hamilton, like about 2 feet from the line, protecting against the double. A ball that might have been a tough play or a double in the corner the first 6 innings. You get into this stage scoreless. He's on the line, and it's a routine out.
So Leary has to get by Smiley to finish the 8th. And he will. Bouncing ball down to Murray. The Pirates go ever so quietly in the 8th. Just a bit under 34,000 here today at Dodger Stadium, on a pace to draw better than 3 million. Leary getting some words of advice from Hershiser. Oral worked 6 innings last night, 6 innings plus. Allowed 7 hits and 4 runs, all of them earned. Tomorrow on Sports World, 2:30 Eastern Time, Irish Derby, some of Europe's top 3-year-olds, followed by the World Whitewater Canoe and Kayak Championships. John Shelby, pinch hitting for Leary, lifts the first pitch into shallow left, and Barry Bonds retires it.
Give me an idea, the bench strength of all the injuries of Tommy Lasorda. Shelby hitting about 160, not a whole lot of walks, low on base percentage, but with Smiley out there, from the right side, you don't have a whole lot. Hatcher, Anderson.
Hit 21 home runs for the Dodgers in 1987. Only 10 last year, but he still hit 263, and he's always been a very good defensive center fielder. Now he's down around 150 and struggling for his job.
Well, they had Reggie Smith, a former great power-hitting switch hitter, who's roaming the minor leagues, come up and work with him a little bit, and figured if Manny Mota and Ben Hines couldn't do it, perhaps the switch-hitting mentality of Reggie could get to Shelby, but he's still struggling.
Griffin bounces one to Bonilla, and he throws him out. Now, you look at the way Bonilla played that ball, and Tony, you would know better than I, and I don't mean to be overly critical. It came to him very quickly, and he unloaded as if he needed to hurry, and he had about 45 feet to throw Griffin out with.
They've asked him to do this. His arm is so strong, as you see, and can be so erratic. If he takes his time and throws the ball away, Reedus can't do what he just did. Go off and get the ball and come back. If it's bang, bang, the guy's safe. So they say, get rid of it in a hurry with something on it, which is what Don Zimmer did to Sean Dunston. Remember, he used to hold the ball, and unload, and then go in the seats. So that's not too unwise to get it, unload it, under control. Give your first baseman a chance in case you bounce it or pull him off the bag, which you just did.
So Randolph with an 0-1 count. 2 out and nobody on, last half of the 8th. And the scoreless duel continues. And we'll go to the 9th with nothing on the board. It's Quinones alongside Lean who does the honors. Leary is finished. The Dodgers will go to their bullpen. Smiley's made it through 8, scoreless. National League leaders in the standings for the Rolaids Relief Man Awards. Jeff Russell of Texas and Doug Jones now with Cleveland leaping up to the 2nd spot. Those points are awarded on the basis of wins, losses, saves, and points taken away for blown saves. John Franco of Cincinnati continues to lead in the National League with another left-hander, Mark Davis of the Padres, right behind him. Tim Belcher now comes out of the Dodger bullpen with a record of 4-8, an ERA of 3.28. 3 of his 4 wins complete game shutouts while he was in the starting rotation.
Well, this is only his 4th relief appearance, and he's been in the thick of things. He's had 2 losses already and 1 save.
And he can be volatile in a 1-week stretch. His last start before they moved him out of the rotation to the bullpen, and then his first 2 relief appearances, he was tagged with 3 defeats. The last of the 3 came in the 17-inning loss to San Diego on Wednesday when they dropped it 5-3 and 17, and afterwards he was so worked up about the state of affairs that he charged toward plate umpire Ed Montague, who was on the field doing a post-game radio interview, and Joe Ferguson, one of the coaches, had to put a bear hug on Belcher before he could get to the ump.
Basically a 2-pitch pitcher. Fastball that can be awesome at times, and the forkball.
We go to the 9th, and it's a ball inside to Barry Bonds. Smiley still in there for the Pirates. Broken bat. You can hear it shatter all the way up here. Hamilton and Griffin. Whoa. It's Hamilton for the catch.
Alfredo thought he was going to do a little favor for Hamilton, maybe be looking away from the sun and take it out, and Hamilton does wave him off and yell, but apparently not loud enough, as the fans of that area may have blunted the sound, and Griffin couldn't hear him.
You can tell by Hamilton's expression afterwards he is not at all pleased with this.
He may have gotten stepped on. The trainer's going to come out. I don't know if Hamilton got hit in the side of the head or he got spiked. That's all Tommy Lasorda needs, huh? He's got just Dave Anderson as the extra infield now, although Gonzalez, I guess, he can play there, I guess, but Mariano Duncan on the DL before the game today. The troops are running thin for Lasorda.
Troops are almost as thin as Lasorda himself at this point. Wimbledon next, West Coast only. John McEnroe against Jim Pugh among the featured matches. Lean takes high. Belcher misses 2-0. Hamilton near the bag and right on the line. Down at third. And that one's low. 3 balls and no strikes. Van Slyke is on deck. He'd be followed by Bonilla if they sustain the inning. Walked him on 4 pitches. So Lean is now 2 for 3 with a walk. Had a pair of singles earlier. He has half of the Pirate hit total. The Dodgers have managed just 3 singles for Tommy Lasorda off John Smiley.
And how many times in this game have we seen both Tommy Lasorda's Dodgers and Jim Leland's Pirates have the man they went up with a runner in scoring position on base, and the pitching is just dominated, overpowered him. Once again, Van Slyke up with the right side open. Lean's got speed. Andy grounded a double play in the 6th with men on first and second. But the big innings, when Gibson, Murray, and Marshall went down up in the 4th.
Van Slyke fouls it off. The Pirates are 9-19 in 1-run games this year, although they have won 5 of their last 7 close ones. Last year, they were well over 500 in games decided by 1 run, and the obvious reason, the presence of Jim Gott and a bullpen that was in order. They have gotten that bullpen back in order now after several false starts. I mean, they used Dorn Taylor, Morris Madden, Scott Medvin, Logan Easley, Randy Kramer, all of them in the closer's role at various points. And Bill Landrum, after failing a few times and nearly being demoted to Buffalo, was given one last chance by Jim Leland, literally given a lecture and one last chance, and boom, he came alive.
Well, I think a lot of credit for winning a lot of 1-run ball games should go to the manager, because he's got to operate his bullpen right. He's got to use the proper strategy, put the proper pinch hitters up, and it's not a reflection now that they're not winning them because he doesn't have the horses to go in and do these things, as you indicated. But a lot of times it's timely hitting. hitting in 2-out situations to win close ball games or extra inning games. You get a lot of injuries, your bench is restricted.
Broke
Another
his
one.
bat as he rolls it foul.
Boy, they use the fastball so much differently in this league than the other league. I mean, how many times have we seen bats broken on fastballs that are in on the fists, off the plate, right-hander, left-hander, or vice versa? In the other league, they trick you more. A lot more change-ups, breaking balls. So there is a difference, and a lot of it has to do with the no DH here and the bigger ballparks.
Well, that was Jack Clark's lament, wasn't it? He goes over to the Yankees. He says, why won't somebody challenge me with a fastball? Of course, he came back here to the National League, and whatever they're throwing him, it's been working for the most part. He went through a stretch where he struck out 11 times in 3 straight games. Declared that the game was no fun anymore.
Finally took himself out of the lineup with the Jack McKeon to get a little time off and regroup.
Leaned at first with 1 out. Belcher's 0-2 pitch, but first, a soft toss over there.
We haven't seen too many pitches in this ball game from either Smiley or Leary, and now Belcher's been in there a short while only, just for 1 out down the middle of the plate. They've been on the corners and changing speeds well.
Struck him out. Changed speeds on him there. Changed by going to big gas.
And you can see where Dempsey sets up, and it's right there. Borderline fastball up out over the plate. When you've got the kind of stuff that Belcher does, you can get away with those pitches out over the plate where they get their arms. You can just see almost the hop on that last pitch. 90 plus.
That's the kind of change of speeds that'll get the best of hitters. Here's the best fastball, the one you haven't seen yet, 2 or 3 miles per hour better than what I've shown you thus far. This telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball. May not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball.
Rick Dempsey just went out. I do not think it's because of what they want to do to Bonilla as much as it is Dempsey has pitched out in this game and nailed a runner. You got to read us earlier on a pitch out about if we're going to pitch out, let's not tip it off. I mean, some pitchers will pitch out so quickly and change their delivery, it's a tip-off for the good base stealer.
Bonilla is 1 for 3, had a 4th inning single. A ball and a strike to him. Last year at roughly this time, Bonilla was hitting .342. He tailed off in the second half, still wound up with a wonderful year at .274 with 24 homers and an even 100 RBIs, but did most of his damage in the first half.
Watch pitch out.
No pitch out, runner not going, called strike. Leaned inches away from first, held there by Eddie Murray. Dempsey signed to Belcher, runner not going, fly ball left field. Gibson toward the line, it's shy of the track, and that'll do it. On to the bottom of the 9th we go, with the Dodgers scheduled to send up the thus far unproductive heart of the order. Gibson, Murray, and Marshall trying to put a finish to it. And Ben Hines during last year's World Series. Now watch the transformation with Tommy. We'll take a look at him in a minute. Gibson on the first pitch, high bounder foul. There's Lasorda today, some 30 pounds and about 4 suit sizes smaller.
So Gibson and Hershiser are going to lose a few bucks, and Tommy's going to pass the money on to charity.
The 0-1 to Kirk. Down and in.
You look at the big 3 for the Dodgers, not just today. Gibson, Murray, and Mike Marshall have 19 home runs, 79 RBIs total this year. And of course, Murray's got 43 of those ribbies. He's on a 100 RBI pace. But Gibson and Marshall have been hit by injuries.
One and 2 to Gibson. Only Darryl Strawberry can match those power and speed numbers combined. The last 5 years, 20 and 20. Checked his swing. They checked down at third. No, says Dana DeMuth. He's okay. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Smiley has allowed the Dodgers 3 hits, all of them singles. Walked 2, struck out 2. and he held up.
You can see by the pitching pattern, Kirk Gibson likes to go down and get the ball. Outstanding low ball hitter.
Off-speed pitch, and he struck him out. He went up and in on him, and I misspoke. He went up and in on him with a good fastball. My eyes playing tricks on me, but Gibson's eyes unable to track this one. It's just the scouting report you were talking about. That was the thing in the American League, which the Twins did so well against him in 1987 in the playoffs. Just try and bust him up and in with that hard stuff, and that's what Smiley did there for the strikeout.
The scouting report that the Dodgers used against the American League champ Oakland A's. The Cansecos and the Maguires, they just pounded them high with high fastballs.
Murray singled to left his first time up, but his last two times, each in an RBI situation, he was retired. 1-1 to him. Murray has hit 7 out of the park this year. 1-2. He's the second leading switch-hitting home run hitter of all time behind Mickey Mantle. He's got 340. Mantle had 536. The former Dodger, St. Louis and Boston player Reggie Smith is third with 314. This is up the middle, and they'll have no play. Murray has his second single of the day.
With Jose Lean, you can't call it too soon, though, can you? I never thought he'd even get close to that ball, and he at least got it. You know, Eddie Murray, that at bat, first two pitches when he took, especially that second strike, you could almost see he was sitting on an off-speed pitch because he took them, and then he went back to just putting the ball in play, got a high fastball, and bounds it up the middle.
Now it'll be Marshall. Hit into a double play. Line to short. Slide to right with 2 men on to end the 6th. Smiley works. A drive deep but foul. That was the 105th pitch Smiley has thrown today.
We've seen just what? I'm looking at my scorecard quickly. Just 2 men as far as third base. Jose Lind in the 4th. And Griffin in the 4th. That's it, isn't it? That's
You
pitching,
got it right.
folks, or poor hitting. The Dodgers part has been a lot of poor hitting most of this season. Pittsburgh's been starting to hit better.
Bounced foul. 0-2. With Smiley, Drabek, who has pitched better of late than his 5-5 record indicates, and Walk, who beat Hershiser last night. Walk taking his record to 7-4. Leland has a good front three. Now he's hoping that Jeff Robinson can become his 4th starter, and he'll stop fiddling with him in and out of the bullpen.
Robinson's given him 2 good starts, but he is going to miss his former team, the Giants. Leland's going to set his rotation up that way. Nice block. That saves the base by Dan Billardella. He's done that twice. Once on a pitch out where he jumped out to his right, and right here on that tough breaking ball.
Yeah, Leland could have pitched Robinson on Tuesday. That would have been the order in San Francisco, rather at home against San Francisco. Watch Billardello's play again. This will be a 1-2 pitch. In on his hands, and he bounces it foul over the Dodger dugout. And Fernando made the play. He pretended to make the play.
So he and Franklin Stubbs would have a wrestling
Look at
match
this.
for that
Look
one.
at this. He's got the ball in his hand, and he pretended that he caught the ball and went over his head.
Does he know where the camera's at? He's had it on him enough. He's a 19-year-old kid, and since he's been struggling to come back and doing a heck of a job, he had 4 in a row for a while. There are 4 wins in a row.
Just to finish up on Robinson, trying to minimize the pressure on him, Leland will not pitch him at home in Pittsburgh on the artificial surface against his former Giant teammates Tuesday. He manipulates the rotation a little bit and moves him up a day to pitch him here Monday in the final game of this series. Thinks that'll give him a bit of a psychological edge. Marshall, if you're just joining us, playing his first game since coming off the DL with the bad back. Murray at first with one out. Here's the 1-2 pitch in the bottom half of the ninth, but Smiley steps off.
Mike missed all of spring training through, so it's just like he's having spring training all over again. He was one of the team. Well, yesterday, he was sort of so frustrated with the offense. He had everybody out for an 11 a.m. workout yesterday. It was a night game last night.
2-2. The word from Cincinnati, Dwight Gooden. Soreness in his right armpit, they're saying now. And the Mets will wait a couple of days before determining whether the doc will miss his next start. Murray with a modest lead at first.
Whoa! Eddie Murray was going to go on the first move. He was going to take a nice, easy walking lead and let his momentum take him and try and steal one off Smiley. And somehow Smiley saw him out of the corner of his eye. I thought he was going, didn't you? You know, just try and walk off and then keep on going. One of those first moves you see, go. Try and lull him to sleep. Like the Dodgers, if Gooden does miss some start, they've got some maneuverability too. Heck, Aguilera's been so good out of the bullpen, but he could start again if he had to. David West, they've got that depth like the Dodgers in their starting staff.
Marshall has hit 4 home runs. Smiley works to him. Full count. Let's see what Murray does at first with one out here.
And Eddie Murray jockeying around as he did, and with Smiley focusing more on him perhaps than Mike Marshall, the hitter. You don't ever know, but Murray may have gotten that pitch and run the count to 3-2 because Smiley was paying attention to him.
He is going, and it's ball 4. The Dodgers with their third good scoring opportunity of the day. Cincinnati maintains that 4-2 lead in the 8th at home. Larkin and Daniels have hit home runs. The Cubs led 2-0. Giants tied it. Now Chicago goes ahead at Candlestick 3-2. Leland to the mound.
So you see the difference in the rule in the National and the American League. In the National League, all the infielders can come up on the surface and get involved in the conversation, how they're going to pitch him, what pitch they're going to try and use to get him out. If there are switches of signs, Leland's going to get it all straight. In the other league, you can have the manager, catcher, one infielder, but they get around that now because they just stay on the edge of the grass. If all the infielders want to come to kind of skirt the rule.
Nobody throwing right now in the Pittsburgh bullpen. Landrum, the closer, worked an inning in 2/3 last night, getting his 9th save. And closing out the month of June, Landrum had 8 saves and a win and didn't allow an earned run in 28 innings of work.
Boy, and Ray Miller and Jimmy Leland taught him how to finish off hitters. He's always a guy to get 2 strikes on you in a hurry.
But it's Smiley's job here against Hamilton, and here's a little pop to the right side. Reedison leaned, easier play for Lean.
Infield fly was a fair ball. The umpires wait. They thought it was going to drift foul, so finally they popped up the hand. The hitter's automatically out.
The Dodgers are now 0 for 6, counting Hamilton's at-bat plus a walk, with runners in scoring position, causing Lasorda to hang his head.
Well, in the 4th, they had 2 chances for a sacrifice fly to get their 1 run, and guys they had there were in the middle of their lineup. Lane alertly comes over to help. I mean, that's one of those deals. If the ball does get away from a Reedus, hitter's out, but those runners can advance. And the ball hits off your glove and pops and rolls into foul territory. You can keep on running. So Lean came over to help Reedus out with his son.
Jose Gonzalez 0 for 3. Smiley trying to send this one to extra innings.
Infield moves back a little bit. They want to knock any ground ball down. They'll give the little chopper. And little infield, you see where they're playing way back in the outfield grass. It's a situation where your outfielders cheat in a little bit in this situation. Infielders move back. 2 outs. ground ball. The outfielders cheat a little bit in case there's a hard ground ball base hit or one-hop line drive. You have a chance for play at the plate.
Smiley's 0-2 pitch. At second, it bounces beyond him. They wave Murray home. Van Fleck's throw will not be in time, and the Dodgers, on a bad hop, have broken John Smiley's heart.
Lasorda's been looking for that break all season long. One of the surest infielders, although he made 2 errors yesterday, Jose Lean, and Tommy's got to win. Ball was hit very, very hard by Gonzalez. And all Lean wanted to do is stop it somehow, even with his chest. The bound off his right shoulder, goes to center field, and it's a game winner.
It's scored as a hit. Look how it comes up on Lean. He tries to barehand it.
I mean, he just moved his head off to the side to the left, or we got him right in between the eyes. And when you got 2 outs, the runner at second base always gets a great jump, because as soon as the bat starts in motion, you're going to start going. What a way to win a game, huh? Tommy's tried every which way to win a ball game this year. And offense has been all but impotent, and he wins one this way.
And on a bad bounce, the Dodger 5-game losing streak and the Pirates 6-game winning streak end.